Good morning, brethren, and welcome to our bi-weekly program entitled The Word in a Glimpse, which is broadcast live every Monday and every Wednesday at 8 a.m. West Africa time, which is 7 a.m. GMT. Today is Wednesday, the 9th of August, 2023, and our topic this morning is entitled Spiritual Danger of Physical Exhaustion, Part 2. We started this teaching on Monday, you remember, and we read a passage in 1 Kings chapter 18. So we're going to read that passage again so that we can have it fresh in memory. Let's read 1 Kings chapter 18, verses 20 to 24 first. 1 Kings chapter 18, verses 20 to 24. So Ahab sent for all the children of Israel and gathered the prophets together on Mount Carmel. And Elijah came to all the people and said, "How long will you falter between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal, follow him." But the people answered him not a word. Then Elijah said to the people, "I alone am left a prophet of the Lord, but Baal's prophets are 450 men. Therefore let them give us 2 bulls, and let them choose 1 bull for themselves, cut it in pieces, and lay it on the wood, but put no fire under it. And I will prepare the other bull and lay it on the wood, but put no fire under it. Then you call on the name of your gods, and I will call on the name of the Lord. And the God who answers by fire, he is God." Let's also read verses 30 to 40. Verses 30 to 40. Then Elijah said to all the people, "Come near to me." So all the people came near to him, and he repaired the altar of the Lord that was broken down. And Elijah took 12 stones according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, to whom the word of the Lord had come, saying, "Israel shall be your name." Then with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he made a trench around the altar large enough to hold 2 shares of seed. And he put the wood in order, cut the bull in pieces, and laid it on the wood, and said, Fill 4 water pots with water, and pour it on the burnt sacrifice and on the wood." Then he said, "Do it a second time." And they did it a second time. And he said, "Do it a third time." And they did it a third time. So the water ran around the altar, and he also filled the trench with water. And it came to pass at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice that Elijah the prophet came near and said, "Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known this day that you are God in Israel, and I am your servant, and that I have done all these things at your word. Hear me, O Lord, hear me, that this people may know that you are the Lord God, and that you have turned their hearts back to you again." Then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and it licked up the water that was in the trench. Now when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces, and they said, "The Lord, he is God. The Lord, he is God." And Elijah said to them, "Seize the prophets of Baal. Do not let one of them escape." So they seized them, and Elijah brought them down to the brook Kishon and executed them there. So let's also read verse 46. Verse 46. Then the hand of the Lord came upon Elijah, and he girded up his loins and ran ahead of Ahab to the entrance of Jezreel. Let's read this verse again. Then the hand of the Lord came upon Elijah, and he girded up his loins and ran ahead of Ahab to the entrance of Jezreel. Okay. You see, last time, or on Monday, we saw how Elijah was exhausted on the day of the contest with the prophets of Baal. How he spent all the day working. He first walked on foot from Jezreel to Mount Carmel. Then he lectured the people who were there. He talked to them with a very loud voice because there was no microphone to be used, no loudspeaker. So he had to shout, which is tiring. Then he had to build the altar himself. He didn't ask for help. He himself had to gather 12 stones, not 12 pebbles, 12 stones to make the altar and to set those stones firmly on the ground so that they will remain stable. Then arrange the wood on those stones to make the wood of the altar, the wood of the sacrifice. Then he had to prepare the bull. He had to cut the bull himself. He alone. He didn't ask for help. The prophets of Baal were 450, so they could share the task among themselves and not be very tired. But he did it alone. He cut the bull in pieces, all alone. And he arranged the pieces on the altar, he alone. Then he prayed for fire to come down on the altar. And of course, fire came down on the altar. Now, after he prayed to make the fire come down and consume the burnt offering, he resumed with his physical work of high intensity. You see, prayer itself can be energy consuming. Prayer itself can also consume much energy. But this didn't stop him from doing something even more exhausting. He slaughtered all the 450 prophets of Baal himself. He didn't ask for the people to do it. He didn't ask for the people to help him kill these people. What he asked the people to do was only to seize those prophets of Baal so that no one could escape. And he brought them to the brook Kishon himself, and he killed them himself. He slaughtered them himself. Imagine 450 people being slaughtered by only one man. How could that one man feel physically? So he slaughtered 450 men all alone. All alone. He was already exhausted by fire. He was already exhausted by the time that fire came down and consumed the burnt offering. But now he was still more exhausted after the slaughter of the 450 prophets of Baal. You see, there are many servants of God who want to do everything themselves, even what they can easily delegate, what they can let other people do, they prefer to do it themselves. They behave as if they were the only ones who could do or who were able to do what they decided to do. They behave as if no one else could be able to do what they were doing themselves. They don't count the hours that they spent working very hard for things that they could delegate to others. This generally and inevitably drains their strength and their energy. You know, it's always better to make 10 people work on a project than to do all alone the work of 10 people. But this is what many servants of God do. And we see Elijah said in 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 22, I alone am left a prophet of the Lord. Later on, we will see that it was not true. Yet he said, I alone am left a prophet of the Lord. He believed in this. So many servants of God behave as if they alone are able to do God's work, as if they alone are able to serve God. They behave as if they alone are able to do the job that they are doing. With this kind of thoughts, they overburden themselves with a very great load of work, just as was the case with Elijah. Elijah overburdened himself with a very great load of work. Was he obliged to kill those 450 men himself? The children of Israel were many there. He could ask those who seized the prophets to kill them, to kill those prophets of Baal. Yet he decided to do it all alone. And now, concerning Elijah himself, was he actually obliged to slaughter all those 450 men himself? Did God tell him to do it himself without delegating that job to anybody else, or without asking for any help? Could he not ask the people who were there and who prevented the 450 prophets of Baal from escaping? Could he not ask them to do the job for him? Were they not able to do that slaughter? But no, Elijah preferred to do it himself. Elijah slaughtered all those 450 men himself, all alone. That's seriously increasing his level of exhaustion. And he didn't stop there. After slaughtering those 450 prophets of Baal, he didn't stop there. He climbed up the mountain. And you know how hard it is to climb up a mountain, how tiring it is. If you have already done it, you would know how difficult climbing up a mountain is, and how tiring it is. And he climbed up the mountain. He climbed up and went up to the top of Mount Carmel. He went to the top of Mount Carmel to pray God, to ask God to send the rain in Israel, as God has promised. You see, it was not an easy task. He was already tired. He was already exhausted. So, yet he still had to climb up to the top of the mountain. So Elijah added this fatigue to the one that he already had. And moreover, he didn't eat at all. Since morning to that time when he was climbing up the mountain to the top of Mount Carmel, he had not eaten. Because nowhere we see that he had eaten. They were contesting, so he had not had time to eat. So since morning till evening, he had only been interested in the contest with the prophets of Baal, and in manifesting the glory of God, which is not bad, of course, which is a good thing. Yet the truth is that he had not eaten. And while King Ahab was eating, he was praying. He was busy praying. And he prayed for quite a while, because we see that he sent his servant many times to see whether the answer to his prayer was already manifesting. Now, when it started raining, so when the answer to Elijah's prayer was manifested and it started raining, Ahab went up into his chariot, because Elijah told his servant, go tell Ahab to go into his chariot and speed up to Jezreel so that he will not be caught by the rain. But it started raining even before Ahab could actually reach Jezreel. So Ahab went up into his chariot and rode away to Jezreel. Elijah, who was still at the top of Mount Carmel, while Ahab was going back to Jezreel, while Ahab was riding his chariot back to Jezreel, Elijah, who was still at the top of Mount Carmel, climbed down the mountain. And even climbing down the mountain is tiring. He climbed down the mountain and he ran to Jezreel. He ran. Running is also very, very tiring, very exhausting. But he ran to Jezreel. Not only did he run to Jezreel, but he ran past Ahab, who was riding his chariot. So you see that while he was running, he overtook Ahab's chariot and he ran past Ahab's chariot to the entrance of Jezreel, which means that Elijah ran much faster than a horse. He ran much faster than a horse or even a team of horses, because the chariot was being drawn by horses, or one horse, or a pair of horses, or a team of 4 horses, mainly. And since it was a royal chariot, I think it was drawn by certainly by a team of 4 horses. But that one I can't confirm. I wasn't there. Believe me, I wasn't there. And it is not written in the Bible. But we know that the chariot was drawn by either 1 or more horses. And Elijah overtook that chariot drawn by horses. He ran faster than a horse or a team of horses. And running itself is already tiring. And running so fast is frankly exhausting. Running much faster than horses is actually frankly exhausting. So when Elijah reached Jezreel, he was exhausted. He was very, very exhausted. So we're going to stop here today, so that neither you nor I will be as exhausted as was Elijah. We're going to stop here and continue with this same topic on Monday on this coming Monday, the 14th of August. God bless you abundantly beyond all your expectations.